Okay, and now we have Amy's project. So let's take a look at the opening statement. Okay, so we have a photo series on a horse named Athena. Just the opening this up at the first one. I'm really happy with the way this one came out. Your light looks really good. It's very obviously, even though it's daytime and you've got very strong shadows, you've got good, contrasty kind of dark blue sky. I really like the line that the horse's back makes along that blue sky. Never underestimate the potential of what a blue sky can do for a contour edge such as this. But yeah, I feel like you're, good job on your, um, exposure in the foreground and in the background, and the dark areas. You don't seem to have anything blown out, and you seem to have um, fairly good detail coming in through on the dark colors, and that blue just really plays nicely with the paint horse. Okay. Lighting is not as good in this one. Let's just kind of go back and this see how just rich and warm the colors are on this. And by comparison, this one is much grayer. You exposed well for the sky, and we've got that beautiful blue sky back there. But I think that we need to mask out the background and bring out some warmth and some highlight in the foreground. The greatest amount of contrast is going to this area right here, and this is almost like creating a little square. Like this should be our focal point, and of course, there's not really much to look at right there. But generally, it's more or less a portrait. So generally we would say that the face needs to be the focal point, and I'm pretty sure that's the intent. And also, since it is a portrait, um, I think maybe you could get a little bit more personality out of her if we could see one of her eyes, or maybe if her head was up a little bit, or if her ears were pointing forward, or something. It's kind of like I can see her eye in this one, and kind of get a sense that she's like a person, has and here, I just don't get that sense of life, and I think a lot of it does have to do with just if you're going to shoot the face, definitely play it up in some way, and make it more interesting than the area that is supposed to be, subordinate. Okay, and this one's similar. The composition is not as good. This one, if the light was okay, the composition's pretty good. Of course, I would rather you didn't cut her feet off. Poor thing, right? Either really crop it, or give them some space, but don't ever just like barely cut something off like that. Just one of those little things you have to learn to watch for. The composition on this one is not as strong. We do have a little bit of the foot cut off here, again, not quite as much, but I think you seem to be your eye level. You seem to be up kind of high looking down on her. I'm not sure if maybe you're standing up on something. It's probably it's probably not the best angle. What I think is interesting about this one, is what's happening in here. You know, again, I think that we should focus on the face, and I can't really see her eye very well in here, you know, because we're in so much shadow. Um, you know, this might even be a good opportunity to use your flash. You know, this is what we like to use the built-in flash on our camera for when we're shooting in the shade on a really sunny day like that. But I think just repositioning yourself and featuring this is really cool. I know you wanted it to be about the saddle, but the thing that draws my eye to it is the interaction between the line right here and the post. You know, I think if you wanted to take a picture of the saddle, you know, make it a little bit more dramatic. But I think this just has to do with positioning and, you know, light more than anything else. Okay, now that's a nice, interesting action shot right there. Um, it's, I think it would be nice if you could get in just a tiny bit closer. I know that's kind of difficult to do. With action, we always want to, you know, get as close as we possibly can. Now that said, you know, I really like your foreground here. It's nice and kind of in focus. In fact, I think I wish that maybe this was a little less focused so that this area in here could be more focused. But that said, it also could be that you could just come along and crop this some. You know, I'd rather you get close, you know, because that's you're putting good pixels. You're cutting off perfectly good pixels that could be used for the picture when you crop. But I think that this one has potential. I imagine you did a whole series of her going around like that. I really like the tension between the figure and the horse here. I think tension is really, you know, kind of the perfect word for it because they're connected. The rope is pulled tight so they're connected and kind of at the same time seem to be kind of pulling away from each other a little bit. But it's you know, very, very indicative of movement. The horse's body, you know, we talk about diagonals suggesting movement. Look at if we drew an imaginary axis line through the horse right here. Just by nature, you know, we lean when we're in motion. You know, her leg has uh, diagonals on it. You know, because she is moving as well, and then she's got the straighter leg, which is kind of a stabilizing element. So yeah, this one's nice. I think it could be a little bit stronger, but this one has a lot of potential. Okay, whereas this one, I just think that your angle is not ideal with the horse. I see what you're doing, and I really, really like the big, big, big blue sky in the background. I think that maybe if you wanted to be like straight on like that, like go ahead and be just like extremely straight on, you know, like where the rider's head is like stacked directly above the horse's head, and you know the feet are all lined up. But otherwise, I think I would get at a little bit more of an angle to elongate the side of the horse a little bit more and to introduce a little bit of negative space in between the figure and the horse. You know, let's go back and look at this one. There's distance between these two, which is making them interesting. Here, of course, we don't have that distance, but what happens is the person starts to basically just the shape kind of just blends into the horse, and you know it's hard to tell where one ends and where the other begins. And when we've got this perfect clear blue sky like this, it is great for defining negative space. And so I like that you know, got I like the proportional relationship of the horse to the background in this one. I like that the horse is small and that this seems to be almost more about the sky than about the horse. And also because your focal point is like right in the middle. Generally, I think it would be better, you know, it's almost symmetrical, but not quite. But some symmetry isn't always interesting. Whereas I think if you stood about to here, where my cursor is, you'd see more space between the horse and the person, and you'd definitely see a little sky in between, and it would put a little bit less space over on this side and introduce a little bit more space over on this side. That's my opinion. But you know, you're getting a lot of success with these ones that are shot in the full daylight. Well, I'm looking at these shadows now, and I'm thinking it's not midday. It's very, very bright, but it is not midday. These shadows are long, so I am assuming it's about 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, which is perfect. It's the perfect time. So you've got the sun over here reflecting off the horse. When you're shooting the sky, you have the sun behind you over your shoulder, and therefore your sky is not blown out. So, you know, really taking that to heart, which is good. Okay, now that one I really like. And notice in this one, the horse's ears are pricked up. In all the others, she looks kind of bored, but in here, she is very interested. I love the shallow depth of field, and you know, this one tells a story. You know, just kind of like this one does. You know, I think that out of all of them, this one really tells a story. You know, it's um, we know what this is about, you know. So your light is nice on this one. You know, again, look at you know, if you've got that sun right over your shoulder, you almost just can't go wrong on a day like that. And you know, it's a little bit ironic that the one picture where the horse is kind of perky and actually seems to be engaging with the camera a little bit is the one where she's out of focus because she's not the focal point. But it's kind of funny as well. This one I think is very successful. Of all the ones that you did, but in that area where between the two buildings there, this one I think definitely has the most personality. Okay, so we'll go on and read your concluding statement. I'll leave that up on the screen for a few seconds. And really good job on these. You really nailed it on a couple of them. You know, a couple of them. I hope I gave you some good you know, things to think about. You know, the next time you go out, and keep taking pictures of your horse. They're just going to get better the more practice you get.